Well, maybe on another day we can talk about speech plagiarism. But Peter, it's a widespread problem. As somebody said, it's in the public sector, it's in the educational sector, it's all over the place in many different forms. Maggie Sucklick, here's an email. I think you were the one who said, how'd you feel if your dentist or doctor plagiarized? And this listener says, in an educational system where classes are becoming ever more intensive and time-consuming, and yet colleges are still requiring coursework which has nothing to do with the profession of the person in question, my answer to this might vary between who cares to good for them. Point being, there are only so many hours in a day to study.
Well, I've always been one to think that, pursuing a college education has more to do than sort of slavishly following after specific professional goals. If you want to do that, then there are probably other career paths that will take you outside of the university where you have these opportunities to, as the previous email mentioned, make connections, to broaden ideas outside of a narrow educational path. So I would be concerned if I found out my doctor had plagiarized, not because I care about how much he knew about Othello as an undergraduate, but I'd worry about his integrity overall and maybe make some leaps into other areas that might be affected in terms of character.
I think that's exactly my response, because the listener, Mike R., goes on to say, if my specialist in internal medicine plagiarized his creative writing class, all this means to me is every minute he or she skips studying haiku is one more minute he or she was able to spend studying the diagnosis of liver cancer, which is ultimately all I care about. Well, I mean, it sort of negates the idea of integrity and honesty as an important part of practicing medicine, whether you're studying haikus or whatever. Here's Jim in Pacific who says, hi, I just went to schoolsucks.com and found that I can get several papers on plagiarism, and they all seem to be against it. That's weird. My question is, everything there seems to be for sale, not free. What gives? Aren't they making money off cheaters? Yasha Harari, want to answer quickly? Because we're coming up on a quick break here.
The School Sucks papers are all free. There might be links to advertisers who, sell papers or whatever, but our papers are all free. And if anything, I'd like to say to the academic community, if you want to help us to help the students, give us some papers and information on that we could post that teach students how to write better and write about the values of having good ethics in academic research. After all, if you want them to have good ethics when they're in the business world, it starts in the education world. And so we're certainly a perfect vehicle for that, and we'd welcome that. We'd be happy to have an anti-plagiarism section on schoolsucks.com.
And you're listening to Forum on KQED Radio. I'm Michael Krasny. Daria, good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm an English teacher. Actually, I'm a former student of Elise's.
Hi, Daria.
Hi, how are you? First of all, I guess when I first caught a student plagiarizing, I was absolutely shocked because it was difficult for me to relate to that student. Because when I went to school, everything had to be typed, and there was no internet. And now I've been teaching for 7 years, and what this issue with plagiarism and the accessibility that students have to finding papers, such as there's a website like freeessays.com or something. It forces me to do a lot more in-class writing and to work much more closely with students to assess their actual skills, and that's been really helpful. But it is a complex situation because I taught advanced placement classes for a couple of years, and I think students, or I thought they were in the class because they loved to read and they wanted to be challenged intellectually, and most of them were there because they just wanted the extra point, or that was my impression, and they just wanted to get a good grade. And that's where I found a lot more cheating in actually the honors classes. Which was, again, very disappointing. And our school doesn't really have the funding right now, or can't prioritize the funding to purchase a service like Turnitin.com. And unfortunately, it's forced us, or we teachers, to give a lot more in-class writing, and I find that I do a lot less out-of-class writing because I'm so skeptical that the students do it on their own.
Well, John Barry, how about a sliding scale?
Well, I mean, look at it this way. The cost of our service, whether it's for Berkeley or for some public high school, is approximately 80 cents per student, unlimited use for the entire year. So, I mean, it's not a budget breaker, and it is the reason why we have nearly 6,000 institutions all over the place using our service.
Well, that's a good thing to hear. I suppose that when I've asked or requested it and other teachers have requested it, we're just we're kind of given a pat answer, no. So I guess this is good research that I'm doing right now.
Well, let me ask you something, Daria, for
Yeah.
our own research here on this program, and that is, when you find an enormous disparity between in-class writing and out-of-class writing, and it's fairly obvious to you that there is that disparity, what do you do?
Oh, I definitely talk with the student. And
the student says, I write worse under pressure.
Or they say their parent helps them, or they have a tutor help. And actually, that was another point I wanted to address, the consequences. When I have caught students who've plagiarized, when it's just so obvious that the language that they're using is not that it's highly academic, it's not the language of a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old. And when I've talked to the parent, often the parents are very reluctant to accept any responsibility. They'll say, oh, well,
I'm
what's
just
wrong
helping
with
my
that?
kid, right?
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Or, oh, only half of it came from the internet. And so I think it's really forced us to look at, or they changed some words to do a lot more explicit instruction on the difference between paraphrase and borrowing words and what is their own. And I also tell students, I said, fine, if you want to actually use something from the internet, acknowledge the source. Tell me who said it. Write a footnote.
Daria, we thank you for the call. Good to hear from you this morning. We want to hear from another caller, and that's you, Ray. Hi.
Well, I guess it's like jazz. You can quote people all you want, but if you expect them to, if people don't expect you to keep delivering the theory of relativity over and over, right? So we're all working on the shoulders of the people that came before us. And I was listening to this. I was kind of wondering if maybe there's any observation on where it's happening the most. Is it undergraduates, graduate school, or somewhere else?
Do we know, Maggie Sokolow?
My perception is it happens in much greater numbers at the undergraduate level, and again, probably partially because of the nature of the assignments, and sometimes, as Elise mentioned,
one wonders if it's more in big lecture classes, which
big
are
lecture
more impersonal,
classes,
composition classes,
and classes where time is really a crunch. As we mentioned, students often are very bad at managing their time in their early years, but they get better at it.
Well, I hope we've managed to increase awareness about this, which I think is a serious problem, and it's something that this has served to provide a good discussion for, and I want to extend my thanks to all of those who were involved in this morning's discussion, and that includes John Berry, the founder and CEO of iParadigms, which provides the service turnitin.com, and Tim Dodd, Executive Director of the Center for Academic Integrity, who joined us this morning from Durham, North Carolina. Our thanks also to Elise Warmoth here in studio, Associate Dean for the College of Humanities at San Francisco State University, and Maggie Sokolow, Lecturer and Coordinator with the College of Engineering Technical Communication Program at UC Berkeley, and Yasha Harari, who is a partner in schoolsucks.com and who joined us from Eilat, Israel. And thanks to all of you. We are indeed appreciative of your listenership. We're here with you Monday through Friday, 9 to 11, and an hour is repeated 10 to 11 in the evening. I want to thank our producers, Robin G. Anastasio-Mal, Hermione G., and Kevin Guillory, and our engineer, Danny Bringer. Our interns are Barton Creeth, Elisa Chang, Leah Wellborn, Michael Fisher, Negar Gobadi, and Mary Trail, and our executive producer is Raul Ramirez. For all of us here at KQED, I'm Michael Kress.
Funds for the production of Forum are provided by the members of KQED Public Radio and the Claude and Louise Rosenberg Jr. Family Foundation.